We've all heard the word cancer, right? We hear it all the time. But here's the thing that's kind of unsettling. It's not some virus or bacteria that invades us from the outside. The really wild part is, cancer is a breakdown of our body's own system. It literally comes from within.
So what is it then? I mean, if it's not some foreign enemy, what are we actually fighting against? To really get that, we've got to zoom way, way in, all the way down to the cellular level.
At its absolute core, cancer is a disease of cell division. It's what happens when this beautiful, incredibly controlled process of making new cells just goes completely off the rails. So before we get into the chaos, let's look at how this perfect system is supposed to work.
All right, so to really wrap our heads around this, let's use an analogy. It's a pretty good one. Let's imagine our body is a massive, bustling city.
Think about it. Every single one of your cells is like a citizen in this giant metropolis. Your skin cells are the city's protective walls, your liver cells are the waste treatment plants. You get the idea. Every citizen has its own specific job, and they all follow the city's rules to a T. That's what keeps the whole place humming along perfectly.
And just like any well-run city, there's a natural life cycle. A cell does its job for a while, and eventually it gets old, or maybe it gets damaged. And when that happens, it does something that's actually pretty incredible. It self-destructs, on purpose, all to make way for a fresh, new cell to take its place. So this super important process, it has a name, apoptosis, or programmed cell death. Going back to our city, this is like the official demolition crew. They come in, safely take down the old, rickety buildings so there's no decay, and clear the way for brand new construction. It's a totally normal, totally healthy part of keeping the city in top shape.
So, who's writing all these rules? Where does the master plan come from? Well, it's all written down in our DNA. You can think of DNA as the master blueprint for the entire city. It has every single instruction for every single cell citizen, including that final, critical instruction to self-destruct when the time is right. But what happens when there's a typo in that blueprint, a little crack in the foundation? And this is where things can start to go wrong. This is where a good citizen starts to go rogue.
Every once in a while, that DNA blueprint gets damaged. You know, things can cause this, stuff like too much sun or smoking. But honestly, sometimes it's just a random mistake that happens when the DNA is being copied. This change, this error in the blueprint, is called a mutation. It's kind of like a typo in a supercritical line of computer code, a tiny change with huge consequences.
So how does the body normally control all this? Well, our DNA is smart. It has these genes that act just like traffic lights. You've got what are called oncogenes. Those are your go signals. They tell cells, all right, time to divide. And then, just as important, you have tumor suppressor genes. And you guessed it, those are the stop signals. They say, whoa, hold on, that's enough dividing for now. Now, a cell only truly becomes cancerous when mutations break both of these systems. The go signal gets stuck in the on position, and at the same time, the stop signal gets completely shut off. I mean, can you imagine? It's like a car with the gas pedal jammed to the floor and no brakes whatsoever.
And believe it or not, that's how it all starts. It's not some massive invasion. It begins with just one, a single cell that's now ignoring all the city rules, and it just starts dividing and dividing and dividing, with absolutely nothing to stop.
Okay, but you're probably thinking, wouldn't the body notice this, right? I mean, the city has a police force, that's our immune system, so how does this one rogue cell manage to get away with it and become a real problem?
Well, this is where it gets kind of sneaky. As these rogue cells keep dividing, they collect more mutations, and they basically evolve. They learn how to put on a disguise to hide from the immune system's cops, or they send out these confusing signals that throw the police off their trail, and so they just multiply, completely under the radar. So all of this unchecked hidden growth, eventually it builds up into a mass of these rogue cells, and that's what we call a tumor. But, and this is a really key point, not all tumors are the same. Not every little rebellion threatens the whole city.
You have two main types. First, there's a benign tumor. You can think of this like a protest that stays in one park. The cells are weird, yeah, but they're contained. They stay put. They can't spread. But then you have a malignant tumor. That's cancer. This one is invasive. It doesn't care about property lines. And, most importantly, it figures out how to travel.
To fuel this crazy growth, a malignant tumor needs resources. It needs its own supply lines. So it pulls off this incredible trick called angiogenesis. It basically tricks the body into building brand new blood vessels, new highways, that lead directly to it. This brings in all the food and oxygen it needs to become a real powerhouse.
So, let's boil it all down. What really defines a cancer? What are the key abilities that turn a local problem into a full-blown crisis for the whole body? It really comes down to two kinda terrifying skills.
Number one is invasion. The tumor stops being this neat little ball and just starts growing into the healthy tissue around it, like a weed with deep roots, choking everything out. But number two, and this is the big one, is metastasis. This is the game changer. This is when cells break off from that original tumor, hop into the bloodstream, the city's freeways, and start new colonies, new tumors in totally different parts of the body.
And that right there, that ability to spread, is what makes cancer so incredibly dangerous. Because of metastasis, it's not just a problem in one neighborhood anymore. Suddenly, it's a crisis affecting the entire city. It becomes a disease of the whole body.
So, understanding this whole story, from one tiny typo in the DNA blueprint to this massive, citywide invasion, that's the crucial first step. Because it shows us we aren't fighting some alien thing. We're fighting a broken, corrupted version of, well, us. And that leaves us with the biggest question of all, doesn't it? How in the world do you fight a villain that comes from within?